the pitch-black darkness of night. The year is 1968, California. A quiet, secluded lakeside road. Suddenly, that silence is shattered by the sound of several gunshots. Car windows break and scatter, and with them, the dreams of two young lives. This was not just an isolated incident. This was the first act of a terrifying serial killer's debut, an assailant who didn't just stop at murder, but dragged the entire police administration, the media, and the public into a twisted intellectual game. His name? He gave it himself. Zodiac. More than 5 decades have passed. Technology has seen unimaginable advancements. So many unsolved mysteries have been unraveled. But the Zodiac, he remains a chilling enigma, an elusive shadow. His coded letters, his taunts, his brutality, all combined to create a myth that still sends shivers, down spines, terrifies, and intrigues. Who was this Zodiac? Why did he choose this deadly game? And the biggest question, why, even after all these years, does his true identity remain unknown to us? Today, we delve into that infamous chapter of history. We will walk those blood-stained paths where the Zodiac lay in wait for his victims. This journey is not just the story of a serial killer, it is an attempt to penetrate the depths of an unsolved terror. Let us uncover the dark. History of the Zodiac Killer. The 1960s and 70s. California was then another name for dreams and possibilities. On one hand, a surge of arts and culture, free thought movements, youthful rebellion, and the beckoning of a new era. San Francisco seemed like a fascinating hub for the whole world. The summer of love, psychedelic rock, and an unbridled celebration of life. The Golden Gate Bridge was not just an architectural marvel then, but a symbol of freedom. But beneath this bright light, a deep darkness was gathering. Vallejo, Napa, Riverside, San Francisco, these cities were witnessing change. Social norms were breaking, new values were forming, but the police system of that time couldn't keep pace with this change. There was a glaring lack of coordination between police forces of different areas. Investigative methods were archaic. Modern technology for identifying criminals was non-existent. DNA was unheard of, and even fingerprinting was in its infancy. While people were engrossed in music and love, the crime graph was also inching upwards. And right at this time, in this California of dreams and conflicts, emerged a monster whose fiendish murders painted an indelible black mark on that golden canvas of dreams. The Zodiac Killer was like a dark reflection of that bright era, a burning question. Even at the peak of civilization, how savage can a human be? It was against this backdrop that his horrific killing spree began. December 20th, 1968, just a few days left before Christmas. Lake Herman Road, near the city of Benicia, California. Known popularno as Lover's Lane, among local youths, an ideal spot for some quiet time. That night, 17-year-old high school student David Arthur Faraday and his new girlfriend, 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen, had come here in David's mother's Rambler. It was their first official date. It was around 10:30 p.m. Suddenly, another car pulled up beside theirs or approached from behind. Before they could understand anything, the attack began. First, 1 or 2 shots, then a few more. They were shot, at point-blank range. A passerby had heard the gunshots but didn't pay much heed. About an hour and a quarter later, while passing by that road again, he saw the car and the bodies and informed the police. What the police saw upon arriving at the scene was horrifying. No signs of a struggle, no motive of robbery could be found, just a brutal, senseless murder. The killer seemed to have vanished into thin air, leaving no clues. Police initially suspected it might be a drug-related dispute or personal enmity, but the truth was far more terrifying. This was the Zodiac Killer's first strike, the first bloody signature on the heart of California. The next morning, As the news appeared in local newspapers, a palpable fear spread throughout the area. Who was this unknown assailant? Nearly 7 months had passed. The investigation into the Lake Herman Road murders hadn't progressed much. The summer heat was upon California, July 4, 1969, America's Independence Day. Vallejo City was also in a festive mood. That very night, the previous incident repeated itself, even more brutally. 19-year-old Michael Mageau and 22-year-old Darlene Ferrin, after finishing work at a coffee shop, had come to the parking lot adjoining the golf course at Blue Rock Springs Park around 11:30 p.m. Darlene was married, but she had a friendly relationship with Michael. Darlene and Michael were talking. Suddenly, another car parked behind theirs, then moved forward a bit and stopped beside them. The driver said nothing at first. A few minutes later, that car returned, and this time parked behind their car. Then the driver of that car got out, holding a powerful flashlight. He shone the light directly into Darlene's and Michael's eyes. The attacker fired a 9mm Luger pistol at them indiscriminately. Darlene was hit multiple times. Michael was also severely injured in the face, neck, and chest. After the shooting, the attacker calmly walked back to his car. But after driving a short distance, he turned his car around and came back. Michael was writhing in pain. Darlene was almost unconscious. The attacker then shot them each 2 more times, as if to ensure their deaths. Darlene Ferrin died at the scene, but Michael Mageau, despite being shot multiple times, miraculously survived. He was later able to give the police a vague description of the killer. A white male, short, heavy-set, with curly hair and heavy-rimmed glasses. He was driving a light-colored car, possibly a Chevrolet. Mageau's survival was a crucial clue for the investigation, but the Zodiac was planning something else. Just a few hours after this incident, the next afternoon, the Vallejo Police Department received a phone call. On the other end was a cold, emotionless male voice. Not only that, within 72 hours of this murder, on July 26th, 3 leading newspapers received 3 letters. Each letter contained the same message, where the writer claimed responsibility for the Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs murders, providing details that only the police and the killer would know. And with the letters was a 3-part cipher, a complex puzzle of 408 symbols. The attacker claimed that his true identity was hidden in this cipher, and he threatened that if the newspapers didn't publish these letters and the cipher on their front pages, he would kill more people. A new terror was born in California. A serial killer who wasn't content with just killing. He wanted publicity. He wanted his actions to be discussed. He named himself Zodiac. And this cipher he sent, it was an open challenge to the intelligence of the police and the public. The news spread through international media. The Zodiac Killer was no longer just a local problem for California. He became an international mystery. Summer turned to autumn. The calendar read September 27, 1969. The previous 2 murders had occurred in the dark of night, inside cars. But this time, the Zodiac chose daylight and a different kind of brutality. Lake Berryessa in Napa County, a very popular spot for weekend getaways. 2 students from Pacific Union College, 20-year-old Brian Hartnell and 22-year-old Cecilia Shepard, had come for a picnic on a small secluded peninsula by the lake. Afternoon was fading. Brian and Cecilia were relaxing. Suddenly, they noticed a man approaching them from behind the trees. The man was wearing a black executioner-style hood that covered his entire face and head, with only glass slits for eyes. On his chest, over his shirt, was that familiar symbol. A white circle with a crosshair. In his hand, a raised pistol. The man approached them and calmly stated that he was an escaped convict from a prison in Montana, where he had killed a guard. He needed money and their car to escape. Brian initially agreed to give him money and the car keys, but the man's intentions were far more sinister. But then the hooded man revealed his true nature. Putting the pistol aside, he took out a long, sharp knife. Without a word, he first stabbed Brian multiple times in the back. Brian lost consciousness from the pain. Then he pounced on Cecilia. Cecilia screamed, pleading for her life. But the monster's heart didn't melt. He stabbed Cecilia 10 times in the stomach and chest. After committing this horrific act, the hooded man wrote something on the door of Brian Hartnell's car with a black marker pen. There was a crosshair symbol, and below it the dates of the previous 3 murders and today's date, along with the words, "by knife." About 2 hours later, a fisherman discovered Brian and Cecilia in that condition. Police and ambulance arrived. Incredibly, Brian Hartnell was still alive. His lungs were severely damaged, but he survived and later gave the police a detailed description of the killer's attire and behavior. He stated that the attacker was about 5 feet 8 to 9 inches, tall, quite heavy-set, and his voice was calm, monotonous. However, Cecilia Shepard died in the hospital 2 days later. Before her death, she was able to give the police some description of the color of the clothing under the attacker's hood. From this incident, the police got a physical description of the Zodiac for the first time and had the opportunity to create a composite sketch. The Lake Berryessa incident added a new dimension to the Zodiac Killer's brutality. It showed that he could kill not only with firearms but also with a knife, coolly and deliberately. And leaving a message on the car door was another expression of his arrogance, as if he was taunting the police. "Look, I succeeded again, and I am the Zodiac." Just 2 weeks after the Lake Berryessa incident, October 11, 1969. This time, the Zodiac's victim was not a young couple but an ordinary taxi driver. The location, Presidio Heights, an affluent neighborhood in San Francisco. It was around 9:45 p.m. 29-year-old taxi driver Paul Stein had picked up a passenger from the theater district, whose destination was the corner of Washington and Maple Streets. Just before reaching the destination, or after arriving, the passenger in the back seat shot Paul Stein in the head, just behind the ear, with a 9mm pistol. Paul Stein died instantly. But the killer didn't stop there. He took Stein's wallet and car keys. Then, most gruesomely, he tore off a piece of Stein's shirt, presumably to keep as a souvenir or proof. This incident happened in a residential area. 3 teenagers from a house across the street witnessed the event. They quickly called the police. In their initial description, they said a man was doing something to the taxi driver and then got out of the car and wiped down the exterior. But here, a fatal mistake occurred. The police control room dispatched a message to patrolling officers that the suspect was a black male, even though the teenage witnesses had said the man was white. Officers Don Fook and Eric Zelms, who were in a patrol car, arrived in the area within minutes of the incident. They saw a white man walking quite normally along the sidewalk, who looked at them and then continued walking. Since they had received a message that the suspect was black, they didn't feel the need to stop and question the man. It was later learned that this man was the Zodiac Killer. This single mistake allowed the Zodiac to escape very easily. 2 days later, on October 13th, the San Francisco Chronicle office received another letter from the Zodiac. Enclosed with the letter was a piece of Paul Stein's blood-stained shirt, irrefutable proof of his kill. In the letter, he claimed responsibility for Paul Stein's murder and mocked the police officers for their stupidity, writing that they had passed him by without questioning him. He further threatened to kill children on a school bus. This letter created intense panic throughout San Francisco. Police found some blurry fingerprints of the killer in Paul Stein's taxi, but it was not possible to identify any specific person from them. Beyond these 4 confirmed attacks, resulting in 5 deaths and 2 injuries, the Zodiac claimed in his various letters to have committed a total of 37 murders. However, no irrefutable proof was found for the other murders. But by taking these 5 lives and nearly ending 2 more, the Zodiac Killer left an indelible mark of terror on the history of California. His methods of attack varied, Secluded lake roads, parking lots, a lakeside, even busy city streets were not spared. He seemed to want to convey that no one was safe anywhere. But alongside this brutality, he started another game. A game of wits with the media and the police. The Zodiac Killer was not only infamous for his brutal murders, but even more so for the series of taunting, arrogant, and mysterious letters and ciphers he sent to newspapers. The murders were an expression of his diabolical nature, and the letters were a means of satisfying his distorted ego and attracting media attention. As we've seen, after the Blue Rock Springs murders, he sent letters to 3 major newspapers. Each letter contained details of the first 2 murders that only the police would know. Through this, he wanted to prove that he was the real killer, and with the letters was that famous 408 symbol cipher, sent in 3 parts. The Zodiac claimed that deciphering this code would reveal his true identity. He threatened that if the newspapers didn't publish these letters and the cipher on their front pages, he would kill a dozen more people over the weekend. Under pressure, the newspapers published the letters and the cipher. And just then, a California schoolteacher, Donald Hardin, and his wife, Betty, stepped forward. Together, they managed to solve a large part of that 408 symbol cipher in just a few days. On August 1st, 1969, the solution to the cipher was published. But it didn't contain the Zodiac's name. It contained a chilling message. I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the people I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife. After the first cipher was solved, the Zodiac became even more emboldened. He continued to send letters one after another. His letters sometimes contained new murder threats, sometimes mockery of the police, or sometimes more complex ciphers. He often used references from pop culture, operas, like The Mikado, or comics in his letters, which indicated his intelligence as well as his perverted mentality. His signature crosshair symbol became synonymous with terror. Each letter began with the same chilling sentence. This is the Zodiac speaking. The Zodiac didn't stop at letters. He also tried to communicate directly with the media. On October 22, 1969, a person called into the popular California TV talk show AM San Francisco, claiming to be the Zodiac. He spoke at length with the show's host, Jim Dunbar, and guest lawyer Melvin Belli. Although it was later revealed that the caller was likely not the real Zodiac but a mental patient, and this incident further heightened public fear and media curiosity about the Zodiac. The real Zodiac later wrote in a letter that he didn't call the TV show because he wasn't afraid of going to the gas chamber. On November 8, 1969, the Zodiac sent his most infamous and complex cipher, a 340-character message known as the 340 cipher. This cipher was incredibly complex. Top cryptographers, amateur sleuths, and even agencies like the FBI and NSA tried for decades but failed to crack its mystery. 51 long years. After 51 years, in December 2020, 3 ordinary individuals, American web designer David Oranchak, Belgian computer programmer Jarl van Eyck, and Australian mathematician Sam Blake, managed to solve the 340 cipher through a combined effort. The whole world was astonished. What was written in that long-awaited message? I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I'm not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner. Because I now have enough slaves to work for me, where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise, so they are afraid of death. I am not afraid, because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradise. The Zodiac, at various times, sent bloodstains, pieces of clothing, and even maps and diagrams in his letters. He threatened to blow up school buses, plant bombs. Every action of his was well planned, the main purpose of which was to spread terror and establish himself as an unstoppable, superhuman force. He used the media as a pawn in his game, and the general public became helpless spectators in his horrific drama. The mark of terror that this game of ink and infamy left on California is still indelible today. While the Zodiac was establishing a reign of terror across California with his successive murders and mysterious letters, detectives from various police departments were desperately trying to catch him. The Vallejo Police Department, Napa County Sheriff's Office, San Francisco Police Department, and later the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, all got involved in the case. But from the very beginning, the investigation process faced multiple hurdles. Firstly, the limitations of forensic science in that era were stark. No one could even think of DNA technology then. Fingerprint collection and analysis methods were also far less advanced compared to today. Although some fingerprints were found in Paul Stein's taxi, no specific individual could be identified from them, as there was no central database of suspects. Secondly, there was a lack of information exchange and coordination among different police departments. Each department was busy with incidents in its own area, making it difficult to form a comprehensive picture. Despite all these limitations, investigators spent thousands of hours, interrogated countless people, and identified several suspects. Among them, the most discussed name was Arthur Lee Allen, a former Navy man and a dismissed elementary school teacher from Vallejo. Several circumstantial pieces of evidence brought him to the top of the list of Zodiac suspects. For example, Michael Mageau, who survived the Blue Rock Springs attack, identified Allen from a photo lineup as a possible assailant, though not with absolute certainty. Allen was known to be in the Lake Berryessa area on the day of that incident. He wore a Zodiac brand watch, and his boot size reportedly matched the Zodiac's footprints. Even one of Allen's friends, Don Cheney, informed the police that Allen had told him he liked to hunt people, identified himself as Zodiac, and was planning to write a coded story. Police interrogated Allen multiple times and searched his home. Various weapons, bomb-making materials, and some strange writings were recovered from his house, but no irrefutable proof was found that directly linked him to the Zodiac. His handwriting did not match the Zodiac's, though it was claimed he could write with his other hand. His DNA, collected later, did not match the DNA, controversially, obtained from the stamps on the Zodiac's letters. The accusations against Allen were primarily based on circumstantial evidence. Allen died of a heart attack in 1992, and with him, a major chapter of the Zodiac mystery seemed to be buried. Robert Graysmith, who was a cartoonist for the San Francisco Chronicle and later conducted extensive research on the Zodiac case to write famous books, firmly believed Allen to be the Zodiac. The web of mystery just wouldn't unravel. Decades later, in 2021, a team of 40 former law enforcement officers, journalists, and military intelligence experts called the Case Breakers claimed to have uncovered the true identity of the Zodiac Killer. According to them, the Zodiac was a man named Gary Francis Post, who died in 2018. They claimed to have found a match between photos found in Post's darkroom and a scar on his forehead with the Zodiac's composite sketch. They even claimed that Post's name was hidden as an anagram in one of the Zodiac's letters. However, the FBI and local police did not acknowledge this claim and stated that the Zodiac case is still unsolved and open. 75 years. 75. Long years have passed since the Zodiac Killer's first murder. 5 confirmed lives taken, 2 more victims of brutality. The wounds created in the hearts of their families, their loved ones, may have been blurred by the passage of time, but they have not completely healed, because justice is still elusive. The memory of that terrifying night, that fear, the terror of that unknown assailant still haunts them. The Zodiac Killer didn't just murder a few people, he pushed an entire community, a generation, into a state of terror. Every letter he sent, every cipher, every threat created deep insecurity in people's minds. He proved how much darkness can lurk beneath the so-called civilized veneer of society. How a person, for no apparent reason, solely for perverted pleasure, can take another's life. Why is the Zodiac Killer so fascinating, so discussed? Perhaps his audacity, his intelligence, albeit perverted, and above all, his elusive nature are the reasons. The game he played with the police and the media elevated him to the level of a kind of anti-hero or legendary villain, though this term is inappropriate to use. People are always attracted to unsolved mysteries, and the Zodiac Killer is the ultimate example of that unsolved mystery. Even today, after so many years, whenever new information or a new theory about the Zodiac case comes to light, it immediately makes headlines. People want to know, want to understand. Who was he? Why did he do it? These questions seem to be ingrained deep within our collective consciousness. Is the Zodiac Killer still alive today? If so, he would now be an octogenarian. Does he still derive that diabolical pleasure from afar, watching the legend he created? Or is he repentant for his actions? Or did he die long ago, taking his secret mystery with him to the grave? The answers to these questions may never be known. I like killing people because it is so much fun. This chilling confession from the Zodiac seems to expose a dark side of human existence. This sentence still reminds us that even behind the brightly lit curtain of civilization, a Zodiac might be lurking, waiting for an opportunity to indulge in his perverted game. The story of the Zodiac Killer is not a fictional tale confined to the pages of a book or the screen of a movie. It is a reflection of a grim reality, a document of an unsolved terror. This cycle may continue, awaiting a solution. But let us not forget those innocent lives who fell victim to this monstrosity. Their memory and their unfulfilled justice will continue to inspire us to seek the end of this dark mystery. Somewhere in the world, a Zodiac might still be alive, or his shadow might be roaming the alleys of our society pointing out to us, darkness is always very close,